Witch Hat Atelier's magic is the perfect allegory for art. I also want to apologize for any mispronunciations. I'm dyslexic, and when I was reading the manga, I used to call it Witch Hat Alter, so I'm not the best when it comes to words. Spoilers for Witch Hat Atelier episode 1 and 2 of the anime and the manga's chapters 1 through 3. This is a really amazing story, so I highly recommend you check it out before watching this video. But now that you've been thoroughly warned, let's get on with it. How can magic be equal to art?
What?
When we are first introduced to Coco, she is excited and in awe about magic. She is amazed by its beauty and could truthfully look at it for hours. I feel like this is how many of us felt when we first saw art. I know at the very least I can definitely relate to the feeling. When I was younger, looking at art was always something that felt magical and otherworldly. I couldn't even comprehend how someone could make beautiful pictures with just colors in their hands. Just like Coco, I could and would stare at it for hours. Both art and magic can create this wonderful joy. At the same time, I was told in order to be successful with art, you had to have the talent for it. I'd find myself wishing I had been born with a talent. I see this thought process all the time with others as well. I even saw this when I was looking at Witch Hat reactions.
Yeah, who's
picked and chosen to be a witch from birth?
Definitely good artists for sure. I feel like that's kind of a requirement, because if you can't draw, you can't really be effective with magic at all.
You have to be a good artist to draw. This is a common myth with magic and Witch Hat Atelier and drawing in the real world. As long as you can write words, then you can do both of them. I think most of us can agree that people aren't magically gifted at writing out words. It's a skill that takes time and effort, just like the previous mentioned skills. This is illustrated very well in the day Coco stumbles upon the secret of magic. It isn't an innate skill or ability that people have. No. It's a technical one. I had something similar while scrolling through YouTube videos. I can't remember which one, but the knowledge it gave me was unforgettable. Art is a skill that comes with practice. It's not something locked away. It's not something hidden. It's a skill that you can learn at any time. Younger Coco lights up rocks under her feet, thinking she does so with her own special magic. I think in learning to draw, this can be related to following a simple tutorial without knowing the rules of art. You make magic without knowing what you're doing, but just like Coco tries to cast magic without anything happening, if you try to make something too complex without knowing anything, well, nothing will most likely come out. The fun part comes when you know the rules. Once Coco learns them, she is able to make magic on her own. It might not be pretty to people with more knowledge, but it's beautiful to her, and it's something completely her own. That's how I felt about my art early on. I know there are artworks much better than mine, but I made this with my own hands, and that's part of the charm of making art. If there is no talent in art, then why do certain people exceed faster and better than others? In order to answer this question, let's first define what talent means. Talent, a natural... Oh, I forgot. I'm gonna stumble here. Talent, a natural aptitude. Talent, a natural aptitude. It's not about attitude. It's the way you view aptitude. Literally, this is how I look up how to pronounce anything and how to double check my spelling mistakes. I'll just search up the word definition and then I'll hear it spoken and I'll be like, ew, that's how I say it.
Aptitude.
Okay. Talent, a natural aptitude. Aptitude. Okay. Talent, a natural aptitude or skill. To me, this translates to having a good head start, that you might just be able to pick up a skill faster. If that's the case, then I do think some people might have a natural talent for art. However, I also think this could be the case for languages. Just because someone grew up knowing only one language doesn't mean they can't learn a second language. Someone who grew up in a bilingual house might pick up learning languages easier because they are used to different grammar structures and whatnot. As long as you can communicate in a language, then you can learn to communicate in another language. What I'm trying to say is, you can learn art at any time, just like any other skill. Art isn't something you have to be gifted in. Art is just something you learn. Sometimes you might have an advantage over someone. Sure, there can be certain talents like those who can draw straight lines, but Coco doesn't just automatically have this straight line ability. It came from working at her mother's shop and constantly cutting fabric. I think I can relate this back to myself with the amount of design courses I took throughout school. It caused me to be pretty well versed in color theory from having to be tested on it over and over again. Great artist copy. In episode 2, when Coco is learning, she does so by copying other spells. She doesn't try to create her own, or in other words, try to recreate the wheel. This is the same for making art. You don't have to try to figure everything out on your own. Instead of trial and error, Coco learns the rules through what other people have already figured out. This is the same for art. While you could try to learn everything from scratch, you'll succeed much faster if you learn from the knowledge of others. Before Coco learned the rules of magic, she traced spells like many beginner artists might do. I've seen many people just grab random photos online and trace them. There's a sort of thrill you get by tracing and making artworks leagues above your current abilities. An important rule to remember is to never trace and claim ownership. You can trace to learn and mimic all you want, but give credit when posting. If you trace without knowing what you're doing, well, something terrifying might come out. Just like magic, art can be scary. There are artworks that the artists wish never saw the light of day that now are their most famous works in death. Art's goal is to enact feelings, and sometimes you create something terrifying without meaning to. If you still think I'm reaching with all of this, well, Shirahama Kamome, the creator of Witch Hat Atelier, once said that she was inspired to write this story because a friend told her she was born with the talent to draw. Shirahama Kamome, wanting to explain that drawing is not something you're born with, but a skill that you hone and practice, started writing ideas for the manga. Side note, I wasn't able to find evidence for this outside of this YouTube comment. I credit this to me not being good at finding information rather than implying that the commenter made it up. However, I did find this interview where Shirahama Kamome says that she uses magic as a metaphor for being creative. So I hope at the very least this can serve as proof that magic being equal to art is intentional in the story. I want to make it clear that I wrote out most of this script and had this idea before I came across this information. I think all the credit has to go to Shirahama Kamome for writing such a beautiful story that I was able to pick up on this idea. I also think if you're French, maybe Atelier being in the title gives it away. Although I think if I was French, I would still probably think Atelier was just a cute name for a witch school. But maybe that's me being slow. I do feel a little silly writing out this script and then finding out this information about the work's creation. However, I'm proud of this script and I think the message of my video is really important. I hope more people realize that art doesn't have to be something you can only look at, and instead it can be something you make. So if you think Coco can learn magic, then you should also know that you can learn and create art. This is my first time making a video about a series. I kind of want to do a book/movie/TV club thing in the future with my viewers, so if that's something that interests you, let me know in the comments below. To make sure you see more of me in the future, please push that subscribe button. I had a lot of fun making this video. Getting to yap about art and a story I liked was nothing I could complain about. I hope to yap for you again someday. However, bye bye for now, and I love you lots. At the same time, ooh, the document moves on its own. I got a little scared. I'm sorry.